The old woman grabbed my wrist before the coins even touched her cup. Her fingers were icy, bird-thin, and impossibly strong. She pulled me close, so close I could feel her breath trembling against my skin. Then she whispered, "Baby, don't you go home tonight. If you do, you won't wake up." Her eyes weren't just scared. They were begging. And I forgot how to breathe. Cut. My name is Aaliyah Carter, 33, divorced, broke, running on cheap coffee and pure survival. Every morning, the same routine. Wake up, see the empty half of the bed my ex-husband used to take over, feel that silence pressing against me like a hand over my mouth. The silence followed me everywhere, into the bathroom, the kitchen, all the way to the MARTA station, like a weight I couldn't drop. But life doesn't slow down just because yours fell apart. So I got dressed, grabbed my bus pass, and headed toward another day at Harper & Sloan Advisors, where I worked as an accounting assistant, a job without passion, but one that kept my lights on and my fridge half full. And on the way, every single morning, sat the same elderly woman, wrapped in a faded coat, gray curls tucked under a knitted hat, perched on a piece of cardboard like it was her stoop. Her name was Miss Laverne Brooks. She never begged, never asked for more, never spoke unless spoken to. Just nodded sweetly whenever I dropped a few bills in her tin cup. "Thank you, baby." It was the kindest moment of my day. Until today. Until she told me going home would kill me. I told myself she was confused, maybe cold, maybe lonely, anything that wasn't real danger, because real danger didn't happen on quiet sidewalks at 7 a.m., right? I tried to shake off the warning as I entered the lobby of my office building, but then the new security guard, Malik Redding, looked up from his post. "Morning, Carter." "Morning." He noticed my MARTA card clipped to my bag and nodded at it casually. "You take the green line too? Folks been saying Eastview's been wild lately." A normal sentence, a normal tone, a normal concern. But Eastview was my stop, my neighborhood. And something about the way he said it, light, friendly, almost careless, made a tiny alarm go off inside me. "I get off before all that," I said lightly. He nodded. "Good. Stay safe." But his eyes followed me into the elevator. Not creepy, not flirty, just too aware. I tried to lose myself in work. Numbers usually grounded me. But halfway through reviewing a stack of invoices, something made me freeze. One file was wrong. Not a typo, not a formatting error. Tampered with. I clicked the details. Last modified, 2:13 a.m. By my username. My heart stuttered. I was asleep at 2 a.m. I never logged in at night. And the invoice itself had changed. The vendor name wasn't the same. The total was higher. And the signature at the bottom, the signature was clumsy and pixelated, obvious tampering. Someone had overwritten it, using my login, like they wanted my fingerprints on the mess. My mouth went dry. I walked to my boss's door. Terry Maddox, a man built like a patient brick wall, looked up from his computer. "Morning, Aaliyah." "Mr. Maddox, did you update the invoice for Evergreen Services last night?" His brow arched. "Evergreen? That account closed last Thursday." No, it was processed yesterday by me. He stared at me a moment too long, then shrugged a little too quickly. You're probably mixing up the dates. Happens. Just keep moving. But the document... Aaliyah, he interrupted, gently but firmly. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. His tone was calm. Too calm. Like someone smoothing a rug to hide what was underneath. A shiver crept under my ribs. At 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. A known number. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. On the third call, I answered. Hello? Static. Then, a faint sound. A soft scrape, like metal dragging across concrete. Then a faint exhale, almost too soft to notice, like someone standing close to the phone. Then a whisper. One syllable. Too quiet to catch, except it almost sounded like, yeah. My breath hitched. For a split second, the whole office felt too quiet, like the world was holding its breath with me. The call ended. A voicemail appeared. I listened. Static. Scrape. A distant hum. And beneath it all, the low, unmistakable rumble of MARTA tracks. Someone recorded that voicemail near the station. Near my home. Near Miss Brooks's Eastview comment. My pulse hammered so loud I could hear it. When I left work, dusk draped the city in soft purple light, and the street felt wrong, too still. Halfway down the block, I caught a reflection in a shop window. A figure behind me. Hood up, hands in pockets, walking my exact pace. I slowed to tie my shoe. In the reflection, the figure halted too. It froze mid-step, like the reflection knew I was watching. A cold ripple traveled down my spine. My knees felt weak, like my body was preparing to run before I even decided to. I stood and walked again. A bus roared past. And when it cleared, the figure was gone. By the time I reached the MARTA station stairs, Miss Brooks's whisper was replaying in my head like a cracked record. If you go home tonight, you won't wake up. I touched my house key in my pocket, then let it go. The metal felt threatening. I opened a hotel app, found the cheap extended stay hostel nearby, booked it without thinking. I wasn't going home. Not tonight. The extended stay place smelled like old carpet and bleach. Thin bunk beds, flickering lights, everything felt temporary. I climbed into a top bunk and tried to steady my breathing. Every sound made me jump. A door slamming down the hall, someone laughing too loudly, pipes rattling inside the walls. But nothing was louder than the scratch from that voicemail replaying in my head. At 11:54 p.m., sirens screamed outside. I told myself it was normal. Downtown Atlanta never slept. But then my phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor. Aaliyah, your building is on fire. Where are you? I sat up so fast the bunk creaked beneath me. For a moment, everything inside me emptied out. Air, warmth, sound. My whole body went cold, like my blood realized the truth before my brain did. All that remained was her voice. Baby, don't go home tonight. She hadn't been confused. She hadn't been imagining things. Someone had planned for me to die in that building. And I had almost gone home. The phone nearly slipped out of my hands. My neighbor's text glowed on the screen like it was burning for the glass. Aaliyah, your building is on fire. Where are you? I stared at it so hard my eyes blurred. Then my body reacted before my mind could catch up, heart pounding, breath stuttering, fingers trembling. My whole chest felt tight like someone had wrapped a belt around it and pulled. Someone had planned for me to die. Planned. And right now, flames were chewing through the place I called home like it was kindling. My thoughts crashed into each other, panic, confusion, disbelief, none of it landing fast enough to make sense. I shoved back the thin, hostile blanket and climbed down from the top bunk so fast the ladder rattled. My knees almost buckled when they hit the floor. A woman in the bunk below me sat up, rubbing her eyes. Everything good? No, I whispered, then louder. No, I need to go. But I couldn't. I couldn't show up at a crime scene when the crime might involve me. I'd survived by accident. And whoever wanted me dead might be waiting to see if I crawled out of the ashes. I backed into the hallway, hand pressed over my mouth to stop the shaking. Miss Laverne's voice kept replaying. Baby, don't you go home tonight. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known. I pressed my back against the wall and slid down until I was sitting on the thin carpet, trying to make my lungs work again. A thought hit me like ice. If I hadn't stopped to give her change today, I'd be dead. 10 minutes later, the news hit social media. Videos, photos, neighbors screaming in the background, firefighters dragging hoses. My apartment building looked like it was bleeding smoke into the sky. One video showed flames blasting out the windows of the third floor, my floor. I covered my mouth, my home, my things. Everything I owned except the bag on my shoulder, gone. My phone buzzed again. Keisha, girl, where are you? They banging on your door. They think you still inside. I typed with shaking hands. Me. I'm safe. Wasn't home. I'm okay. Her reply came instantly. Keisha, praise God. But somebody said they saw a man in a hoodie near your door earlier today. Fire investigators asking questions. My heart stopped. A man in a hoodie. Just like the shadow from earlier. Just like the reflection. Just like the figure who vanished behind the bus. My skin broke out in pins and needles. A cold pulse shot through my spine. My instincts screamed before my mind could catch up. I had no proof, but I knew. It wasn't random. This was deliberate. I pulled my hood up and pressed myself against the hostile hallway wall, mind racing. If someone had come to my apartment expecting me home, and I wasn't, they'd realize I was alive. That meant whoever it was could try again. Tonight, tomorrow, at any point. I had nowhere safe to go. No family nearby, no close friends I could trust with this. The only person who had spoken the truth was an old woman living on a sidewalk. And tomorrow she said she would show me something. Whatever she knew, it was enough to warn me, enough to save my life. I needed to see her again. I needed answers. But first, I had to make it through the night. I returned to my bunk room, forcing my breathing to slow. 2 people were asleep in the other bunks. A soft snore, someone scrolling TikTok quietly under a blanket. Normal sounds. But as I approached my bed, a strange detail made me stop. My bag. Before I left the room, it had been hanging off the end of the bunk. Now it was on my bed, open. My chest tightened. I stepped closer. My wallet was inside. My ID, my transit card, my phone charger. Everything looked untouched except the zipper pocket where I kept my apartment key was open. And the key to the place that had just caught fire, was gone. Gone. My stomach plummeted. Someone had been inside this room. Someone had gone through my bag. Someone had taken my key. Why? If the building had burned, the key meant nothing, unless someone wanted to stage something, frame something, or use the key for a duplicate. A fresh wave of dread rippled across my skin. I backed away slowly, heart pounding in my ears. Whoever did this, they weren't just close. They were watching. I couldn't sleep. Not even close. Every creak from the hallway made my hands tighten around my phone. Every footstep made me flinch. I kept replaying the day, the warning, Malik's comment, the edited invoice, the whisper in the voicemail, the figure behind me, the missing key, the fire. It all connected. I knew it did, but I couldn't see the picture yet. Around 2 a.m., someone tried the handle of our room door. Once, twice. A soft jiggle. I sat up sharply, every muscle tensed. The door didn't open. Whoever it was moved on. But sleep was impossible after that. I watched shadows for hours until dawn cracked through the blinds like a thin blade of light. I needed answers, and the only person who could give them to me was already waiting. By the time I reached the MARTA station the next morning, exhaustion clung to me like smoke. My nerves were frayed. Every sound felt too loud. Traffic, footsteps, people laughing, someone coughing behind me. Normal things, all suspicious now. But when I reached the corner where Ms. Brooks always sat, I stopped short. She wasn't in her usual spot. Her cup was there, her cardboard sheet, even the little plastic grocery bag she kept beside her, but she was gone, vanished, just like the man in the hoodie. A new wave of panic surged through me. No, she's the only one who knows. She has to be here. I scanned the sidewalk, the station entrance, the alley to the left. Nothing. Then a voice behind me said softly, "You came." I spun. Ms. Laverne stood near the wall, half hidden behind a column as if she'd been watching me approach. But something was different about her. Her posture wasn't slumped. Her eyes weren't soft and tired. She looked alert, almost urgent. I stepped toward her. "Ms. Laverne, what's happening? My building." She held up a hand. "I know." "How? How did you know something was going to happen to me?" A shadow passed over her face. "Because they did the same thing to my son." My breath caught. "What?" She looked around once, then motioned for me to follow her behind the column, out of view of the morning crowd. Her voice dropped low. "You think you the first person they tried to get rid of, baby. This been happening a long time." A chill swept through me. My mouth went dry, but the question forced itself out anyway. "Who?" I breathed. Her eyes softened with sadness that made my stomach twist. "The men you work for." My blood turned to ice. Terrence Maddox? Malik watching me. The edited invoice. The missing key. The fire. It all connected. I knew it did. But I couldn't see the picture yet. Why would my job want me dead? I'm barely important there. Ms. Brooks reached out and touched my arm gently. "That's exactly why. You're the perfect one to take the fall." My mouth went dry. "Fall for what?" She inhaled slowly, her voice cracking. For the money they stealin'. For the people they already hurt. For the things they do after dark. I felt my heart pounding against my ribs. Ms. Laverne, what does this have to do with you and your son? Her jaw tightened. Baby, they set my son up the exact same way they setting you up now. My breath faltered. It felt like the ground beneath me shifted, like her words were rearranging the danger in real time. And when he found out what they were doing, they made sure he didn't wake up either. Her voice trembled. And if you don't let me help you, you gonna be next. We ain't got much time. Miss Brooks's words echoed in my skull long after they left her mouth. We were tucked behind the concrete column, invisible to the morning crowd. But even hidden, I kept glancing over my shoulder like danger was breathing down my neck. What do you mean they set your son up? I whispered. She didn't answer at first. Her eyes drifted toward the flow of commuters pushing down the steps to the MARTA station. She watched them like one of those faces might turn toward us any second. They made it look like my son stole from the firm, she said. Money that wasn't his. Money he never touched. A cold weight dropped through me. What happened to him? Her jaw clenched, and for a moment she looked decades younger, not in a healthy way, but in the raw, exposed way of someone ripped open by grief they've never recovered from. They put him away, she whispered, and 3 months later, they found him in his cell. Said he hung himself. My breath caught. Did he? Her eyes snapped back to mine. My baby boy ain't take his own life. Her voice didn't shake. That somehow made it worse. I swallowed. Why are you telling me this? Because when they decide somebody need to disappear, she said softly, they don't stop till it's done. A cold ripple crawled through my bones. So what do I do? She looked at the ground for a long moment. You gotta stay ahead of them. You gotta see what they doing before they do it. How? She leaned closer. You still got that phone of yours? Yes? Good. Then listen to me careful. You gonna go to work today. What? Act normal, like you ain't scared, like you ain't know nothing. My heart punched against my ribs. They tried to kill me yesterday. That fire wasn't the end. It was a message. My throat tightened, words barely forming. A message to who? To you, she whispered, telling you to stop asking questions you didn't even start asking yet. My pulse throbbed in my ears. So why would I go back? Because they think you dead. I froze. What? They think you were home, she said. They think you burned inside. I felt winded. So if you show up, they'll know they failed, she finished. But right now, they celebrating. I pressed a hand to my forehead. Miss Laverne, this is insane. Baby, insane is somebody breaking in your room to steal a key to a place that's about to go up in flames. My breath stumbled. She had a point. So what do I do at the office? You watch, you listen, you keep your eyes open for anybody acting too quiet or too loud. I tried to process it. And what are you doing? What I should have done a long time ago. Making it right. I started to ask what that meant, but she stiffened suddenly, body going rigid. Don't turn around, she breathed. My vision tunneled instantly like my body was bracing for impact I couldn't see. Footsteps approached behind me, slow, purposeful, heavy. They stopped too close, 6, maybe 7 feet away. My throat closed. Who is it? I mouthed. She didn't answer. She didn't move. For a long second, the air thickened with silence. Then the footsteps shifted direction and faded toward the station stairs. Miss Brooks finally exhaled. That's why you gotta go, she whispered urgently, before they notice you breathing. I wanted to stay, to demand more answers, to beg her not to disappear like she had earlier. But her eyes said everything. The longer I stood here, the more danger clung to me. She pressed something into my hand, something small, metallic, and cold. I looked down. A key. Worn, scratched, old-fashioned. "What is this?" I whispered. "To a place where we can talk safe. You'll know when to use it." "When?" "Tonight." She stepped back. "Go now. And baby?" "Yes?" Her smile was soft but sad. "Don't trust nobody with a badge or a suit." And just like that, she melted into the crowd. I tucked the key into my pocket like it was a lifeline and forced myself toward the station. Every step felt wrong, like crossing into enemy territory wearing a blindfold. The train ride to downtown felt endless. Every person who brushed past me made me flinch. Every whisper sounded like my name. By the time I reached the glass doors of Harper and Sloan Advisors, my hands were sweating. Malik Redding was at the front desk. The moment he looked up, something in me clenched. "Morning," he said, casual, too casual. His eyes flicked over my face, my clothes, my bag. "You look tired." My stomach tightened. "Rough night. I bet." He scanned his log sheet. "Didn't see you leave the building yesterday."
"Thought you went home early." My pulse spiked. Was that a slip, a test, or nothing at all? I forced a shrug. "Guess you missed me." His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Guess so." I walked to the elevator, feeling his eyes on my back the entire way. On the ride up, my legs felt numb. The doors opened to the quiet office floor. Too quiet. A woman from HR glanced at me, then quickly looked away, like she hadn't expected to see me walking the earth. People whispered in small clusters. Others typed with unusual tension. Something hung in the air, like everyone knew something they weren't saying. I reached my desk. My computer was already on. My chair was slightly pulled back. My drawer open an inch. I stared at it. I hadn't touched any of this since yesterday. My heart thudded. Someone had been here. I slid the drawer open quietly. Papers were shifted, pens rearranged. A sticky note I never wrote sat on top of my planner. Check email. My fingers trembled as I sat down and moved the mouse. My inbox loaded. One new message. No subject line, no sender name. Just an attachment. My breath seized. I clicked it. A PDF opened. At first, it looked like a normal invoice. Clean formatting, correct numbers, proper signatures. Except the signature field wasn't blank. It had my name, my handwriting, perfectly replicated. And the timestamp was today, 5:12 a.m. My stomach twisted hard. Someone had forged my signature while I slept at the hostel and saved it onto the company server. Before I could move, a shadow fell across my desk. Terrence Maddox. He stood stiff, arms crossed, blocking the light. "You're in early," he said. My pulse hammered painfully. Couldn't sleep. "Tough morning," he said. "Heard about a fire not too far from your neighborhood." My chest tightened. "Yeah, tragic." He nodded slowly. "You know, I tried calling you last night." My brain flashed. Unknown caller, static, whisper. My stomach dipped. So that voicemail could have been him. His eye stayed pinned on me too long, too sharp, too curious. "Everything okay with your work queue? Need help with anything?" A trap. It sounded like a trap. "No, I'm good." "Good. Let me know if you find anything unusual." He walked away, but something about his stride, too stiff, too self-controlled, set off alarms in my head. My stomach churned. I couldn't stay here long, not with Maddox hovering, not with that forged invoice sitting on my screen like a loaded gun. I closed the document, deleted nothing, touched nothing else. I just needed to see who else was involved. I stood, pretending to stretch, walked casually toward the break room, and that's when I noticed the conference room door, closed, blinds drawn, but sound leaked through the gap, low voices. The shadow of someone pacing flickered against the frosted glass. 2 men. One of them, Maddox. The other, I froze as the second voice drifted out. Malik. My heart shot into my throat. I couldn't see them, but their tones were unmistakable. My hand gripped the door frame without me realizing, knuckles whitening. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere else, Malik murmured. You told me she'd be home. Maddox's voice came sharp and irritated. Doesn't matter. They already filed the paperwork. She's the fall guy. Nobody's looking for another suspect. My knees weakened. Everything inside me spiraled. Malik spoke again. We can't have her walking around, Terry. She sees something she shouldn't. This whole thing blows. My hearing went muffled. I backed away slowly, pulse exploding in my ears. They thought I was dead yesterday. They planned to finish the job tonight, and I was standing 20 feet from both of them. I slipped back to my desk, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the elevator as calmly as I could. Every step felt like walking a tightrope over fire. I didn't exhale until the elevator doors closed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tonight. Don't be late. I stared at it, heart pounding. Then I remembered the cold key in my pocket, the place Miss Brooks said was safe. I had no idea what she planned, but I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't go meet her tonight, I wouldn't live to see tomorrow.
By the time I stepped out onto the sidewalk, the city felt different, brighter, louder, too alive. Like the world had no idea someone had just scheduled my death for tonight. I kept walking even though my legs shook, even though every sound felt sharper than it should. Every sound felt weaponized, each footstep behind me a question, each reflection a warning I couldn't translate. Out of pure instinct, I tightened my grip on my bag and checked the windows I passed, looking for any face that showed up twice. I couldn't go back to the hostel. If someone had already broken into my room, they'd check again. And if Malik and Maddox had a timeline, tonight, they could be watching every place I'd been. I ducked into a coffee shop and took a booth in the far corner, keeping my head low. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Don't forget. I swallowed hard. My hands trembled as I slid the phone into my lap. Someone was tracking me, someone close, someone confident. For a moment, a wild thought flashed. Maybe I should call the police? But Miss Brooks' words came back instantly. Don't trust nobody with a badge or a suit. And after hearing what they did to her son, I knew she wasn't just being paranoid. I couldn't risk going to the wrong cop, couldn't risk going to the right one either. Not when my fingerprints were now on a forged invoice. Not when they'd planted a fake trail to make me the perfect villain. A notification lit up on my screen. News alert. I tapped it hesitantly. A blurry video filled the screen. Firefighters pulling charred debris from my apartment building. A reporter's voice saying, authorities say they believe one resident may have been home at the time. My chest caved inward. For a second, it felt like I was watching my own obituary play on someone else's phone. They still thought I died in that fire. And the moment they realized I hadn't, tomorrow's headlines would look very different. I shut the phone off and slipped out of the shop with my hood up. I needed a plan. I needed Miss Brooks. For the rest of the day, I stayed in motion. Mall bathrooms, library corners, bus stations. Never sitting too long, never letting anyone stand behind me. Every noise felt like a threat. Every reflection looked like it was watching me.
By late afternoon, my head throbbed with exhaustion. Every breath tasted metallic. When the sun began to dip, painting the sky in reds that looked too much like smoke, I finally took out the old key she'd given me. It was scratched and cold against my palm, too cold, like it remembered a door I hadn't seen yet. Heavy, ancient, the kind of key that belonged to something hidden for a reason. My stomach churned. She'd said I'd know when to use it. The text had said, "Tonight," and "Don't be late." I checked the time, 6:41 p.m. My pulse stuttered. Whatever Miss Brooks wanted to show me, whatever she knew, this was the moment. I headed toward the MARTA station, moving with the crowd, letting bodies shield me. Every few seconds I glanced over my shoulder. I didn't recognize anyone, but that didn't mean anything. Maddox wore suits, Malik blended in anywhere. Either one could follow me with a baseball cap and sunglasses. The station platform smelled like metal and rain. I waited until a southbound train screeched in. Doors opened. I stepped on and froze. A man in a gray hoodie sat near the back of the car. Hood up, head down, hands clasped. He didn't move, didn't look up. His sneakers were muddy, one heel tapping faintly, out of sync with the train's rhythm, like he was keeping his own countdown. Something cold climbed my spine like a warning. My instinct screamed. I stepped off the train just as the doors closed. The hoodie didn't move, didn't even flinch. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was. I wasn't taking chances. Another train came 10 minutes later. This one was emptier, safer. I boarded and kept my face turned toward the window. The train rattled through tunnels, lights flickering across my reflection. My own eyes looked foreign, wide, scared, glowing with adrenaline. When the announcer called the next stop 5 points, I stepped out and followed the trickle of commuters toward the street. The city lights glimmered against the rising night. Miss Brooks's usual corner was empty. My heartbeat spiked. Then I saw her. She stood beside a narrow alleyway across from the station, upright, alert, not sitting like she usually did. She motioned quickly. "Come on, baby." Her voice was low and urgent. I rushed across the street. "Where are we going? Ain't safe to talk here." She turned and moved faster than I expected.
We cut through the alley, past dumpsters and graffiti-coated brick, until she stopped at a steel door set halfway into the wall. Rusty. Old. A tiny circular keyhole sat dead center, the kind you only saw in buildings older than history. My breath caught. She nodded toward the key in my hand. "Go on." My fingers trembled as I slid the key in. It fit perfectly. I turned it. The lock released with a heavy click. Miss Brooks pushed the door open just enough to slip inside. "Close it behind you." I stepped into darkness. The smell hit first. Dust, old wood, cold concrete. A slow drip echoed somewhere deeper inside, steady as a heartbeat that didn't belong to either of us. Then the faint glow of a lamp ignited somewhere deeper inside. My eyes adjusted. We were standing in what looked like an old storage basement. Stacks of old file boxes lined the walls, some labeled in marker, most not. Paper spilled from a few leaning piles. A single folding table sat in the middle of the room with folders spread across it like the aftermath of a storm. "Whose place is this?" I whispered. Miss Brooks didn't answer. She walked to the table, picked up a folder, and handed it to me. "Open it." My fingers hesitated before pulling it open. Inside were photocopies of invoices, account transfers, signature sheets, all filled with names I didn't recognize. Except one. "Your son," I whispered. She nodded, eyes dim. "They said he stole money from a client fund." "Look close, baby." I scanned the documents, heart hammering. Every signature, every timestamp, every approval chain. It was the same pattern, the same symbols, the same formatting, the same forged strokes used on the invoice they had pinned to me. My chest tightened. They copied his setup for me. "They copy it for everybody," she said. "Anybody they need gone." I swallowed a rush of nausea. Why? Why do they do this? Miss Brooks motioned toward another pile of documents. Look at them accounts. Check who the money go to. I flipped through the files with shaking hands. Transfer after transfer. Shell accounts, fake charities, payments routed through names that weren't real. This is millions, I breathed. This is huge. It's been going on 20 years, she said quietly. Partners change, but the plan don't. They ain't just stealing. They laundering money for people who don't want to be seen. My fingers froze on one document, a name I recognized. Terrence Maddox. And another, my heart dropped. Malik Redding. They're in on all of this. Both of them. That's why they need a fall guy. Someone young, someone new, someone don't fight back too long. My throat tightened. So they kill them. Her silence was answer enough. My entire body trembled. Why are you helping me? She inhaled slowly. Because I couldn't help my baby. And because you listened. She watched me with a tired hope. The kind of look a mother gives when she's praying history doesn't repeat itself. My eyes stung. What do we do? How do we stop them? We don't. Not alone. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a worn flip phone. This got recordings, notes, bank routes, things I've been collecting for years. She pressed it into my hand. You take this, you run. You find the one person who can take this to the right place. Who? A man named... My heart lurched. This was the name that could save my life. A floorboard creaked above us. Miss Brooks' head jerked upward. My heart stalled. Another creak. Then another. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. How did they find us? I whispered. Her voice was a razor. I don't know. But baby, run. The light went out. The door upstairs slammed. A thin line of light appeared under the basement door, broken briefly by the shadow of someone stopping right outside. And footsteps thundered down the stairs toward us.
The footsteps hit the stairs fast, too fast, like whoever was coming already knew exactly where to go. Miss Brooks shoved me behind a stack of boxes just as the basement door at the top groaned open. A sliver of hallway light cut across the concrete. I held my breath. One sound, one breath could give us away. A heavy boot hit the first step, then another, slow, deliberate, hunting steps. My pulse hammered in my ears. Miss Brooks crouched beside me, one finger to her lips, eyes sharp with the fear I had never seen in her before. The footsteps reached the middle of the stairs. A shadow stretched long across the basement floor. Bigger than Malik's, broader. My throat closed. Maddox? I didn't know. I couldn't see enough to tell. Another creak, then the light at the top of the stairs shifted. Someone else had walked up behind him. 2 people, at least. A voice whispered down the stairwell. You sure this is it? Another voice answered, lower, irritated. Don't ask me. Ask the one who says she saw her come down here. My heart dropped straight through the floor. Someone had followed me. Someone had watched me meet Miss Brooks. Miss Brooks grabbed my wrist, squeezing hard. Her hand trembled. For the first time, she looked old, truly old. The footsteps moved again, closer, slower. The men scanned the room. A flashlight beam swept across boxes, chairs, the table of documents. The folder I had opened sat right on top. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. They would see the pages. They would see everything. Miss Brooks leaned into my ear. When they get to the bottom, you run. Don't stop. Don't wait for me. I'm not leaving you, I breathed. Her eyes glistened. Baby, you gon' have to. The beam of light hit the table and froze. One of the men hissed, look at this. Papers rustled. A drawer slammed. This stuff is old. But the key was real, the other snapped. She didn't make that up. The first voice paused. You think she came down here with Carter? I think Carter's gone, but the old lady, she don't know how to run far. Miss Brooks's fingers dug deeper into my wrist. My heart twisted painfully. The men scanned the room again. The flashlight beam drifted closer to the boxes we hid behind, close enough that I could see dust particles floating in the air, glowing like tiny stars in the light. The beam landed on the box not 3 feet from my face. Check over here, one of them said. A boot stepped off the last stair. The weight made the concrete vibrate. And suddenly, voices echoed from above. Someone else. More than one person. The man with the flashlight turned sharply toward the stairs. Who's there? Silence. Then another slam of the upstairs door. Another voice. Female. Cold. Professional. Basement sweep team. You two weren't supposed to enter alone. The men stiffened. We had a lead. Don't care. Protocol got ignored. Papers rustled again. You touched evidence you weren't authorized to touch. My stomach flipped. Evidence? What were they doing? Who were these people? The woman's voice sharpened. Everybody upstairs, now. Lock it down and wait for further instruction. The men hesitated. We think Mike Carter? Now. Her voice cracked like a whip. The men grumbled under their breath, but the boots moved up the stairs again. One, then the other. The woman followed. The basement door slammed again. A lock clicked into place. Miss Brooks exhaled shakily. I didn't realize I was shaking until I tried to move. My legs were numb. We gotta go, she whispered. We slipped from behind the boxes and moved to the far wall, where a second, smaller door blended into the concrete, one I never would have noticed. Miss Brooks pulled it open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. Damp air rushed out. This lead out? I whispered. To the back of the block. Ain't no cameras in this tunnel. It old. She motioned for me to go first. I ducked into the tight space, brick walls scraping my jacket. The tunnel sloped downward before curving sharply right. It was dark, pitch dark, but Miss Brooks's hand stayed on my shoulder, guiding me. We moved slowly, carefully. My breath echoed off the walls. Somewhere far behind us, metal groaned like someone was testing the basement door we just escaped through. A shiver climbed my spine. They coming? I whispered. Not if we move, she murmured. We pushed forward until a faint rectangle of orange light appeared ahead, a rusted grate. I pressed my face toward it. We were behind a row of old storefronts, the kind with peeling paint and metal shutters. Downtown lights flickered in the distance. Cars passed by occasionally, normal people living normal lives. Miss Brooks pulled her sleeve over her hand and pushed the grate out of place. It clattered softly on the ground. We slid out one at a time. Cold air slapped my face so hard my eyes watered. She steadied herself against the brick wall, breathing hard. You okay? I whispered. She nodded, but the tremble in her hand said otherwise. They almost had us. Who were those people? Her eyes flicked up and down the alley. Not cops. Not exactly. Then who? She wet her lips. People Maddox answered to. People you don't want to meet. My stomach twisted. What do they want? Silence. Anybody who know too much, disappear. Same way they took my baby. My heart ached. Miss Brooks! Ain't time for that. Her voice sharpened. We gotta get you somewhere safe. You said there was one man who could help. Who is he? Tell me now.
Her eyes softened just a little. His name Elijah Ward, used to be a forensic auditor. Saw too much. They tried to bury him, but he's smart, real smart. Went off grid. Where is he? She hesitated. He got people watching him. If we go straight there, they'll follow. Then how do we find him? She pointed down the alley. We go to the place where he left his last message. I blinked. Message? He told me if anything ever happened, go back to where his career died. That could be anywhere. She shook her head. Not for him. She started walking toward the end of the alley. Man like Elijah don't pick places by accident. We reached the street and blended into a sparse trickle of pedestrians. The city seemed louder now, the noise jagged and restless. Every noise felt like a threat, every reflection like a pair of eyes I couldn't escape. Miss Brooks kept her coat pulled tight, her eyes scanning windows, rooftops, passing cars. They know we got something. They ain't gonna stop. What's on the flip phone? Proof, voice notes, account maps, some names. Names like Maddox? Bigger. A chill ran through me. Bigger. How big could this go? She nodded toward the crosswalk. Keep walking. Don't look scared. I am scared. Then walk faster. We moved past shuttered shops and neon-lit bars. A bus hissed to a stop beside us, drowning out city noise for a moment. When it pulled away, Ms. Brooks suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me into a recessed doorway. There,
Her voice was barely air. A black SUV had turned onto the street. Slow, controlled. Its headlights swept the sidewalk. My pulse spiked. Is that them? Could be. Miss Brooks? Shh. The SUV paused at the light. The driver didn't look our way, but the passenger leaned forward, scanning, searching. My lungs seized. Miss Brooks reached into her coat, pulled out something small and metal, and placed it in my hand. A second key, thinner, shinier. If they grab me, you keep moving. You don't stop for me. No. You hear me? Her voice broke. My baby died alone. I ain't letting that be you. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'm not leaving you. You will if you want to live. The SUV rolled through the green light and kept going. Not fast, not slow, just steady, watching everything. When it finally turned out of sight, Miss Brooks exhaled shakily and pulled me back onto the sidewalk. For the first time all day, a thin thread of hope slipped in. Danger felt distant, muffled, like the city was letting us borrow one quiet breath before it took the next one away. We stepped toward the corner. A sharp metallic screech echoed behind us. Headlights whipped around the far corner, fast, cutting across the pavement like a blade. The SUV was back, and this time, it wasn't slowing down. Go! Ms. Brooks shoved me forward. As the engine roared, tires skidding against wet pavement. I sprinted. She stumbled behind me, breath wheezing. The SUV jumped the curb, crushing a trash can. Its lights blinded us. Doors flung open. Too fast, too practiced. In that split second, I knew we'd never outrun them in a straight line. Figures spilled out, running, fast. Aaliyah, Ms. Brooks gasped. Get inside, now! I grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the bank entrance. The SUV's door slammed. Boots hit pavement, close enough I could hear the breath of whoever was chasing us. The old bank door loomed ahead, dark, tall, looming like a tomb. I reached for the handle. The second key in my hand pulsed cold. And behind us, Boots detonated into a sprint. My fingers fumbled with the key as the footsteps closed in behind us. Miss Brooks clung to my arm, gasping for breath. The old bank door loomed in front of us like a wall of stone, and the second key shook in my trembling hand. I shoved it toward the lock, missed, shoved again, and finally felt the key slide into place. A metallic click echoed like a gunshot. I yanked the handle. The door groaned open just as Boots slammed against the pavement behind us. Get inside, Miss Brooks wheezed. I hauled her over the threshold and swung the door shut with all my strength. It thudded closed, heavy, ancient. But there was no lock on the inside. My heart froze. Push! I braced my back against the door. Miss Brooks pressed her shoulder beside mine. The wood shook violently as someone rammed it from the other side. Dust rained from the ceiling. Another slam. Another. The hinges screeched. My legs buckled. Baby, Miss Brooks gasped. We ain't gonna hold this long. My eyes darted around the lobby. Moonlight leaked through the cracked stained glass windows, illuminating a wide, empty space filled with dust-covered counters, broken teller windows, and shadows that looked like they had been waiting years. Another slam nearly knocked me off my feet. I grabbed Miss Brooks and pulled her deeper into the lobby. They're getting in. We have to hide. Now. We ducked behind an overturned desk as the door burst open behind us. Light spilled in from outside. Heavy boots thundered into the bank. Fan out. She couldn't have gotten far. Another voice growled. Find the old lady too. No loose ends. My breath hitched. Miss Brooks squeezed my hand. Stay low, she whispered. A shadow passed the counter. A silhouette paused. Listening. I pressed my hand over my mouth to quiet my shaken breaths. The man took another step. Closer. He was inches from the desk. Flashlight beams sweeping across the floor. Miss Brooks' innards trembled around mine. Her breathing hitched. The light hovered. The man leaned down. A loud metallic clang echoed from somewhere deeper inside the bank. All three men jerked their heads toward the noise. What was that? Someone's in the back. Split up. Check it. Their boots scattered across the floor, echoing toward the far hallway. Miss Brooks tugged my sleeve. "That wasn't no accident," she whispered. "Someone else here." "Who? Elijah?" Her eyes darted through the shadows. "Or someone they sent." The uncertainty made my blood run colder. We moved along the floor, crouched behind counters and debris, until we reached the back hallway, narrow, dark, lined with abandoned offices. At the end of the hall stood a heavy vault door, its wheel rusted, its steel scarred. Miss Brooks pointed. "That's where he be. If he's still breathing, that's where." We crept down the hallway. The floorboards groaned softly under our weight. Halfway to the vault, a door beside us creaked open a sliver. I froze. A hand reached out, slowly, quietly, and tapped the floor twice. Miss Brooks inhaled sharply. "Elijah." The hand withdrew. The door opened fully. A man stepped into the hallway, lean, dark-skinned, hair threaded with gray, eyes wide with urgency but sharp with intelligence. Elijah Ward. He put his finger to his lips. "No sound," he mouthed. Then he motioned for us to follow him inside. We slipped into the office and he shut the door without a sound. The room was lit only by the faint blue glow of a battery-powered lantern on the desk. Papers covered every surface. Maps, account routes, photos, annotations scrawled in red ink. Eliza stared at the flip phone clenched in my hand. "That from Laverne?" I nodded. "She saved everything. She said you're the only one who knows where to take it." Elijah swallowed hard. His voice was low, raspy from days, maybe weeks of silence. "There's a journalist. Independent. Doesn't trust institutions. Name's Kamaria Hayes. She's been chasing this case for years. You get this phone to her, everything collapses. Where is she?" Elijah shook his head. "Doesn't matter unless we get out of here first." Footsteps echoed down the hall. Voices murmured. Closer. Searching. Elijah moved quickly, grabbing a duffel bag from under the desk. "There's a service exit through the vault. They don't know about it." He reached for the vault wheel, then paused. "Where's the other key?" I held it out. Elijah took it, pressed his ear to the vault door, and turned the wheel slowly. It groaned softly. Miss Brooks clutched her chest. Her breathing was shallow. "Baby, when we get out, you give Kamaria that phone, no matter what. We're getting out alive, fiercely, all of us. Come on." The vault opened just an inch, enough for a sliver of cold air to slip through. Elijah pushed it wider, just as a flashlight beam lit up the hallway outside. "They're here," Eliza hissed. He shoved Miss Brooks through the opening. "Go." I ducked in behind her. Elijah followed, pulling the vault shut as footsteps thundered toward us. The vault doors sealed with a dull thud. Darkness swallowed us. "This way," Elijah whispered. He flicked on a tiny penlight and led us down a narrow stone corridor, old, damp, carved beneath the bank decades earlier. "This tunnel leads to the freight yard. From there, we split." "Split? No!" My voice cracked. Elijah turned, eyes serious. "They want you, Elijah, not us. If we stay together, everyone dies. If we split, you have a chance." Miss Brooks squeezed my hand. "He right, baby." My heart broke. "I'm not leaving you." "You got to," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "You the one they scared of. You the one they trying to bury before the truth get out." Footsteps echoed faintly from behind the vault. Someone pounding on it. Someone determined. Elijah handed me a folded map. "Kamaria Hayes is at the DeKalb safe house. Address is marked. You follow the tracks east. Do not stop. Do not turn back." Miss Brooks cupped my cheek with one trembling hand. "My baby died in the dark. I ain't letting you die too." I couldn't breathe. I pulled her into a tight hug. "I'll come back for you, I swear. When this is done." "You go now," she whispered, voice breaking. "You go before they break through." Elijah grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a branching tunnel. The concrete trembled. A loud metallic crack boomed through the vault behind us. Elijah shoved me hard. Run! I stumbled forward, the tunnel narrowing, cold air slicing at my lungs. Behind me, Miss Brooks shouted my name, once. Then the sound was drowned by boots, shouts, metal, chaos. I sprinted harder, faster. My legs burned. My throat tore with every breath. The tunnel split left, then right. I followed the map blindly. At last, a faint glow appeared ahead. Moonlight. I burst out into the freight yard, gravel skidding under my shoes. Trains loomed like dark giants on either side. The night was bitter, silent except for the distant roar of engines behind me. They were coming. I gripped the flip phone in one hand, the map in the other, and ran along the tracks, my heart punching my ribs. Every shadow looked like a man. Every clang sounded like footsteps. But I didn't stop. Not tonight, not ever again. Miss Brooks' voice echoed in my head, no matter what. I ran until my legs gave out. I collapsed behind a freight car, chest heaving, vision swimming. I opened the map again with shaking fingers and whispered Kamaria's address to myself like a prayer. Just get there, I told myself. Get there and the whole thing falls apart. A sudden buzz in my pocket made me freeze. I pulled out my phone. Unknown number. One message. You can run, Aliyah, but you won't get far. My blood turned ice cold. Another message arrived instantly. We already have the old woman. My scream never made it past my throat. I staggered to my feet, gripping the flip phone so hard it dug into my skin. Hold on, Miss Brooks. I'm coming back for you. I swear it. And I ran into the dark, toward the only person who could help me expose everything before time ran out. I didn't stop running until my lungs burned raw, and the tracks curved into a narrow service road that cut toward the east side. My legs almost collapsed beneath me, but the fear pushing me forward was bigger than exhaustion. Miss Brooks was alive. She had to be. They wanted me, not her. They needed leverage, a bargaining chip. That meant she was still breathing. Rare hope flickered in my chest and died just as fast, because if I didn't move quickly, they'd take that from me too. I clutched the flip phone tighter and pushed through the darkness until the first streetlight appeared like a blessing. A cracked sign read, DeKalb Supply. I followed the map. Left, right, straight until the neighborhood shifted from industrial to residential. At the end of the block sat a small, worn-down duplex with a busted porch light and a door that looked like it had been kicked more than once. The address Elijah circled. I approached slowly, checking over my shoulder twice before knocking 3 times like the map instructed. A soft shuffle came from inside. A chain clicked. The door cracked open just an inch. A woman's voice whispered, "Who sent you?" "Elijah Ward," I breathed. The door didn't open. Instead, the woman said, "Proof." My hands shook as I held up the flip phone. This. The chain slid back. The door opened, and standing in front of me was Kamaria Hayes, mid-30s, deep brown skin, tired eyes with fire behind them. A journalist's eyes. She grabbed my arm and yanked me inside before I could say a word. The door slammed, locks clicked. 3 of them. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My lungs were still clawing for air. Kamaria's house smelled like old coffee and paper, a safe smell, a grounded smell, and it hit me how close I'd come to dying. "Sit," she ordered, pointing to a couch covered in folders. "Talk." I told her everything. The fire, the fake invoices, Malik, Maddox, the basement, the sweep team, Elijah, the key, the vault, the chase, the tracks, and worst, when I reached the part about Miss Brooks being taken, my voice broke. Kamaria didn't interrupt. She didn't blink. When I finished, she finally exhaled. "You know what you have in your hand, right?" I nodded. Miss Brooks died trying to protect her son. She didn't get justice. I'm not letting the same thing happen to her. Kamaria took the flip phone from my palm as if it were a bomb. She hooked it to a cable and connected it to a laptop. The old screen flickered. Multiple audio files appeared. Names, account numbers, dates, locations, voices. One name kept repeating. Terrence Maddox. Another, Lamar Crow. My blood froze. Who was that? Kamaria leaned forward, the man behind Maddox. Like his boss? Like the person who owns the people who own Maddox. My stomach flipped. Is he coming after me? If he isn't already, he will be, she said. This level of corruption doesn't disappear. It only expands. So what do we do? She clicked another file. A woman's voice played. Terrified, but clear. Miss Brooks. If you hearin' this, that mean they comin'. Don't stop running. Don't trust no badge, no suit. You find Elijah, you find Kamaria, and you bring this whole thing down. My throat closed so tight I couldn't breathe. For a moment, I wasn't in the attic. I was back in the basement with her hand shaking around mine. Kamaria whispered, she recorded this 3 years ago. 3 years? My voice cracked. She knew? She suspected, and she did everything she could to make sure someone outlived the truth. My chest caved inward. A sharp knock rattled the front door. We both froze. Another knock, harder. Kamaria mouthed, "Don't move." She crept toward the window and peeked through the curtain. Her face drained of color. "It's them," she whispered. "How?" "They track patterns, and you ran straight here." Before I could respond, the back door shattered somewhere behind the kitchen. Kamaria grabbed my hand. "Come on," she hissed. We sprinted into a narrow hallway lined with old newspapers. She pushed open a utility closet, revealing a ladder that led to a cramped attic. "Go," she hissed. I climbed. She followed, pulling the ladder up behind her just before heavy boots pounded through the hallway below. The attic was small, hot, and suffocatingly dark. A film of dust coated my tongue. Every breath felt like it might give us away. Through the floorboards, I heard doors being kicked open, cabinets thrown, furniture overturned. "Where is she?" a man barked. "Search the whole damn place." Kamaria shuddered beside me, but there was no fear in her eyes, only fury. She whispered, "They did this to Elijah, they did this to Laverne, but they're not doing it to you." My voice trembled. "They have Miss Brooks." Kamaria grabbed my hand tightly. "If she's alive, we'll get her. And if she's not, then we make damn sure her death is the last one they ever bury." Below us, boots thundered from room to room. A man cursed. "She's not here. Check outside," another shouted. "Spread out." The front door slammed. Silence. We waited 5 more minutes before Kamaria cautiously lifted one shingle and peeked outside. "They're gone." I exhaled shakily. "What now?" "Now?" She closed the shingle and turned to face me. "Now we burn them." She pulled the laptop closer and whispered, "Every audio file, every document, every trail, we leak it everywhere. Newsrooms, blogs, Reddit, Discord, TikTok, whistleblower networks. They can't kill every platform." I swallowed hard. "What about Maddox?" "He'll fall with the pack." "And Malik?" She paused. "He might run, but someone will find him." When she finally hit enter, the files began uploading. Multiple servers, multiple backups, multiple distribution channels. A small progress bar blinked like a heartbeat. 12%. 26%. 41%. I clenched my fists. Please, please let this work. 78%. 93%. 100%. Kamaria exhaled. "It's done." The house felt suddenly still, empty, like the world was holding its breath. She checked her phone. Notifications flooded in. Reporters, activists, anonymous tips, lawyers, politicians, strangers. Then she showed me one message that made my chest tighten. "The story is out. Maddox is in custody. Crow is missing. The city is waking up." My lips parted. We did it? Kamaria smiled faintly. We opened the door. Justice still has to walk through it. Kamaria's eyes hardened. Men like Crow don't disappear. They wait. They watch. I looked through the attic vent as dawn crept across the street. For the first time in days, the sky felt breathable. Ms. Brooks's voice echoed in my chest. Kindness always comes back. Might not be fast, might not be loud, but it always returns. I whispered, "Thank you, Ms. Brooks." And in that moment, I swear the morning felt warmer, softer, brighter. You okay? Kamaria asked quietly. I will be, I whispered. One day. And as the sun rose over the cracked rooftops, painting everything gold, I thought, maybe today is the first day I fight back. If you rode this whole story with me, thank you. Really, stories like this remind me why truth matters and why ordinary people can make the whole world shake when they refuse to stay silent. If you felt something, if you want more stories like this, stick around. Like, comment, subscribe. Be part of this little corner where we breathe life